am BEBAN SAMMY CHUMBOW, born in Batu, Baminda 2, Mezam. Schooled in the Basel Mission School, Azeri, secondary school, Cameroon Protestant College, Bali, and then I worked for the Cameroon Times in the early 60s, and then also for the Ministry of Education, West Cameroon, and the Federal Ministry of Education based in Boya, before relocating to the university in the Congo, Leopoldville, University of Lovanium, and then I went to the US for a PhD, passing through Belgium and London, and I worked in Nigeria for several years, teaching at the university from 1976 to 86, and relocated to Cameroon. And I'm sure that most Cameroonians who know me since the 40 years that I've been here, back to Cameroon, can fill in the rest.
He is a perfectionist.
He's a born-again believer. He does not play with his faith.
Always willing to listen, and his listening capacity is impressive.
Down to earth, willing to stretch a hand, and some of us jovial.
Very humble person, very sharp person, very generous, very.
Professor CHUMBOW was born about 18.5 years ago to family of Papa Alexander von CHUMBOW from Batu, and Mama Elizabeth Ngum CHUMBOW from Kijemkeku. As we were growing up, we knew that most of the jobs present at the time were occupied by white men or Nigerians. And there were very few qualified Cameroonians who had any job, anything responsible to do. So all we hoped to do was, if we finished standard 6, our ambition was to be a pupil teacher, and if you're lucky, you go to teacher training college. That's all. Now, but Professor CHUMBOW attended the Basel Mission School in Azeri, and when he was about to finish standard 6, his ambition was to be a motor mechanic, because there was nothing else to do. So I never expected him to become what he is, following the circumstances at the time. But I believe it was through God's blessings that his life changed and made him what he is.
I had an opportunity to go to the US under the African Scholarship Program for American Universities, ASPAW. I took the examination and passed, but the interviewers, at least from the Cameroon side, said journalism, which is what I wanted to do at the time, was not a priority. So my colleagues who went in for medicine and engineering were preferred. And later on I had an opportunity to go to Besançon in France, but the opportunity came for me to go to Lovanium, because there were some Cameroonian close to us who studied in Lovanium, and this was a famous university in the 60s, an African university that was actually a Belgian university transported to Cameroon, because it was the daughter of Louvain, l'Université Louvain, l'Université Catholique de Louvain, and Lovanium simply means the daughter of Louvain. And that famous university, from what I knew about it, it made me want to go there. So I went there because I was given a scholarship, an African-American scholarship for the development of Africans. And so that was the context under which I went to the university l'Université Lobanium.
While he was a student at CPC Bali, I was studying in London. At the time, I went to London on a Nigerian scholarship. And from London, I kept in touch with Professor Chumbow. And I kept encouraging him. I kept motivating him. And I told him that, look, if I, from nothing, could find myself in London doing what I was doing at the time, I felt that he could even do better. The reason is simple, because I, as senior brother, I was now able to guide him. Whereas in my own days, it was a question of trial and error.
I met Sammy in 1959, so that's a long, long time ago. And so we share common values, definitely, because going through CPC Bali, there was something that is special.
I was in Form 2 in 1959 when he came into Form 1. Then we were in the Boy Scout movement together. And so for 4 years, from 1959 to 1962, we're together in this Boy Scout movement. You know, that is something that gets people very close.
Sammy was one of those very, let me call it, resilient young men who wanted to see life look better. And from CPC, these are the people who at least pioneered the way to Lovanium, that is the university in Kinshasa, that is well, the Republic, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and they did all their studies in French. And that's when he acquired his ability into linguistics and different languages, and today he speaks them and speaks them well.
I was a journalist with the Cameroon Times, and that alone is a very important area for discussion. And I was motivated to do journalism, but there wasn't a journalism program in that university, at least at the time. And so I opted to do what was called philology roman. Philology is the science of languages.
When he finished his studies from Lovanium University, I think he also went to the main Lovanium University somewhere in Brussels. And from there, he left and went to the University of Indiana in America, where he got his PhD in linguistics. Now, when he finished, he became one of the founding members of the University of Ilorin in Nigeria. And there he was professor. And he worked so hard that the University of Ilorin became one of the best universities in the whole of Nigeria. And he had opportunities to work in many other places. He had been invited to teach in America, in Britain, in South Africa, in East Africa. And I want to encourage him to come to Cameroon. I told him, brother, you have done enough for Nigeria. Come back home. Come and do something for your own people. Come and leave your own mark your footprints in your own country. He was very, very hesitant. And I will remember I went on my knees and I begged him. I said, look, come back home and help us. And he gave me a task. And that task was he sent me all his publications in a big carton. I carried these things on my head and I took them to the Department of Modern Letters. And I handed this cartoon, these publications to Professor Chia, Emmanuel Chia, and they registered them. And I wrote back and told him, well, I've done my homework. I've handed your documents to the university. Eventually, they employed him. He came here, and there were many obstacles. They never gave him a house. It took a long time for them to process his salary. He came as a professor, but most people did not know what he was, who he was. They treated him like any other local professor. He got frustrated and almost wanted to go back because he had better offers. I went on my knees again and prayed. I said, look, come and stay with me. I was living at the lake side with my 3-bedroom house. He and his wife Lucy and the children came, and we lived together for almost 2.5 years. We lived. I was very happy to have him around us. He was not just a person. He was my brother, his wife, and his children. And I even spent extra money to make an extension so that we could be more comfortable. Then it took the university time to realize that this man was gold and diamond. It took them 2 years to discover him. And when they discovered him, things changed. The doors opened. They gave him a house. Not too long from that, he was appointed assistant rector or assistant vice chancellor, University of Buea.
Had the responsibility of leading the thinking and discussions on the decentralization of the University of Yaoundé by the creation of new universities, especially by ensuring that the university centers were upgraded to become full-fledged universities. The president had instructed that the reforms be carried out. And so, because the president was well informed about the state of university development and the challenges of the universities, and created 2 universities, the Anglophone, Anglo-Saxon type university in Buea, and the Francophone or French language type university in Yaoundé. A lot of people don't refer to that, they don't think about that, because the university reforms of 1993 were preceded by texts that created the University of Buea and the University of Yaoundé as Anglo-Saxon and Francophone, respectively, before the reforms were made and they were included in the creation of the 6 state universities. So when that was finally done, I must say that the creation of the University of Buea led to a lot of demonstration of satisfaction from the Anglophone community. And although it was clear that the university was not a university for Anglophones, but a university of the Anglo-Saxon type for all Cameroonians, especially because many Cameroonians, including a lot of Francophones, went to Anglophone or Anglo-Saxon type universities in Britain, in America, and especially in Nigeria for that education. So the idea was, what are they looking for that cannot be gotten in Cameroon? Can we create in Cameroon a university that has all of these facilities, all of these traditions that Cameroonians go outside to pay a lot of money to get. And so we had the task of creating the Anglo-Saxon type universities along with the other universities.
His language is fine, and he expresses himself very, very expressively, if I should repeat the word. Sammy can communicate, and that's why he is a language specialist, and he does it with a flair.
As a lecturer, I learned so many things from him. Very rigorous in the way he was teaching. Practicality in doing things. This myself today as a full professor, I've learned having those attitudes, those scientific attitudes that can bring a fresh learner, a student, to grasp the necessary knowledge that a lecturer wants to impact on him. These are pedagogic attitudes that each lecturer should be able to hand down to his future colleagues or just the students he's having on hand. Up to now, I have not ceased to have good relationship with Professor Chumbow, because I've been part of many of the projects he has conducted while being rector of the university or just being a teacher in my department of African languages and linguistics. Now that I'm heading the department of Cameroonian languages and culture, I'm still applying the principles I got from him. And this, I will never forget.
You know, there are some individuals whom you meet and they not only impact your life, they define the trajectory of your life. So for me, it's not a matter of just impact, it's a matter of a trajectory of life defined. It's a memorable evening in September of 1999. I'm just wrapping up my studies at the University of Boya when I visited Professor Chumbow, then as rector at the University of Chang. And when I went to see him, there was just one major concern on my heart, because I have a passion for Christian ministry and as well a passion for mathematics. I had gone to say to him, I had gotten to the peak of what I could do with mathematics, having now just been at the tail end of my master's degree, and so I was going to drop academics and pursue the ministry. And for 2 hours, Professor Chumbow took his time to explain to me the dynamics of the talents that God gives to people and the importance of nurturing all of those talents. And so he and I, when we meet now, we go back, we think about that night in Chang in 1999. I would have been a preacher or something of the sort, or what have you, nothing bad with that. But he insisted that there were other talents that God had given me, and I had no right to bury any of those talents. So with his impetus and encouragement, I pursued my studies to the point of becoming a professor of mathematics and a university administrator, and still carrying on with gospel ministry. So he showed me that when God gives you talents, you have to use all of them for his glory. And now with schools and medical clinics set up, around the country to help, those in disadvantaged conditions and to promote quality of education that improves the lot of many. I owe all of this, including my marriage to Eunice, my dear wife. I owe all of this to his direct mentorship and, as I said, more than impact, change of trajectory.
I knew him far back as 1993 when the University of Boya was created. He was appointed to the University of Boya as Deputy Vice Chancellor, and at that time I was a visiting professor to the Department of Chemistry of the University of Boya. So I knew him as far back as that, and I know what he and Professor Njoma did to develop that university with, of course, our assistance. After that, he moved on through the other universities and became my rector in the University of Yaoundé 1. And for the few years that he was there, his impact is still there. And we felt when he was leaving that his stay in Yaoundé 1 was short-lived because the plans that he had for that university, he couldn't realize them during the short stay that he was in Yaoundé 1.
J'ai connu professeur Chumbow à l'université de Yaoundé en master. Et en il était notre enseignant. Professeur Chumbow va aller aux États-Unis faire 3 mois. Par derrière, quelqu'un d'autre va nous enseigner sur sa matière. On va rien comprendre. Quand il revient en 4 heures, on comprend tout ce qu'on n'a pas pu comprendre pendant 3 mois. On a créé les universités. Et puis un jour, j'étais dans une cabine téléphonique, je me débrouillais. Je ne suis pas à l'université. Un jour, je vois, on a affiché que les étudiants suivants sont priés de venir à Boya, déposer leur dossier et faire l'interview pour être recrutés. Je vois les noms des 5. On a cité 4 noms, pas le mien. Comme j'étais dans la cabine téléphonique, je connaissais le numéro des universités. Je suis allé à la cabine téléphonique, j'ai pris le téléphone, j'ai appelé le secrétariat du professeur Chumbow. J'ai demandé à ce secrétaire de dire à professeur Chumbow de m'appeler parce qu'il n'avait pas l'argent pour appeler, c'était cher à l'époque. Le professeur Chumbow a pris le téléphone, il m'a quand même appelé. Il m'a dit, Angélique, c'est quoi? Je dis, je crois que c'est tous vos enfants. Maintenant, vous envoyez le message à Yaoundé. Vous savez, tout le monde est sur ma part, qu'on a venu se faire recruter à Yaoundé, à Boya. Il dit que non, c'est parce que il fallait enseigner en anglais. Mais quand même, dépose ton dossier. Et c'est comme ça que je suis devenu recruté à l'université de Boya en 1995. Mais quand j'arrive là-bas pour faire l'interview, il y a un professeur qui m'avait fait échouer à Yaoundé parce qu'il voulait passer par autre chose. Ça n'a pas marché. Entre-temps, on l'avait envoyé à Boya. J'arrive maintenant, celui qui veut faire l'interview. J'arrive, il refuse de faire l'interview. Je prends le numéro de téléphone de la maison du professeur Chumbow qui était parti à Douala. Je vais trouver maman. Maman me fait attendre parce que le professeur Chumbow est venu à 23h. Elle m'a envoyé au bureau du professeur Chumbow. Dès que j'arrive dans le bureau, pendant qu'il arrive, elle ferme la porte derrière moi. Je vois écrit derrière la porte Jesus cares for you in capital letters, all colors. Before Professor Chumbow came, my burden was down. And also when I was going to Professor Chumbow for my research work, when I go there, I see that they are coming from the office, they say they are having revival hours. I say, demande les grands chercheurs Dieu. And that's how my faith, I understand, he imparted me my faith. So that's how I impose my faith to everybody, to my students today. I stand somewhere, I'm not shy to say that I am born again.
Professor Chumbow has known me since I was a little boy. I was 10, 12 years old. So he's a father to me. And whenever I had not just the idea of IC University, but other things, I would go to him and discuss. And so he was the one that told me exactly what it takes to start a branch of our university here in Cameroon. He gave us the details such that we should be compliant with Cameroon's laws on establishing higher education institutions, and then he eventually became the pioneer vice chancellor of the university, and the prestige we are benefiting today even with the two new vice chancellors that came after him, Professor Anyambod and Professor Jean-Emmanuel Ponzi. It's a legacy that he established, the quality of education, the quality, our standards, etc. It's thanks to Professor BEBAN SAMMY CHUMBOW, and we are forever indebted to him.
As a pioneer Vice Chancellor of ICT University, it stands to reason that Professor CHUMBOW was the one who actually led in the process of establishing the university entirely. He worked with the founder, Professor Victor Barika, and they work hand in hand in order to have that. You know that such a process is not easy, especially in our country. It asks for many, many papers to be filled, for many interviews to be conducted, for many authorities to be visited, and so on and so forth. So the founder being in America, residing there at the time, he was the one who was actually conducting these operations on the ground in Cameroon. And as I said, they were working hand in hand, and he's a very loyal person, he's a very reliable person, and he's a man of his word.
He played an amazing role in starting the ICT University, not just in Cameroon. Many people only think of him for ICT in terms of ICT University for Cameroon, but you may not know this. Professor CHUMBOW served on the board of the International Center for IT and Development at Southern University, where I became a full professor. He was one of the mentors of that center that eventually led to the planting of ICT University. So even the thought of launching ICT University is an idea I discussed with him.
When I finished, I was writing my thesis, he came to Grenoble for my defense. When he came to my defense, he was the only African. But the way the others were respecting Professor CHUMBOW, they were looking at him as the minister. And when we finished the defense, there's a lady who was director of QF, Centre Universitaire des Études Françaises. She came to offer him the kit of her school. And when giving it to her, Madame Dominique Abri, she didn't like it before giving to Professor CHUMBOW. I said, a French lady, she didn't like it before offering the kit of her school to Professor CHUMBOW. And Professor CHUMBOW took it and gave to the driver, who was a French, who took it from Professor CHUMBOW and doing like this. And Professor CHUMBOW was not even seeing all the... So that's Professor CHUMBOW that I know. And he always like this. So it inspired me intellectually, spiritually, socially, everything.
He's the Cameroonian scholar who has occupied the highest number, the greatest number of position as being at the helm of a university in Cameroon.
We did so many things in the didactic way of conducting things, and I thank him from that. The Pan-MAPAL project, Pan-African Masters and PhD, that we had in the University of Yaoundé, I'm happy to have conducted it in the university under the chairmanship of Professor Tadaje, and under his guidance as somebody was to assess what we are doing and produce a report for those who gave us some financial support for that activity. It's sometimes difficult to express what you have in your heart because words will not be sufficient to express it. Even if you have to write a book, some paragraphs will be forgotten. Not because you want the paragraph to be forgotten, but because you are submerged by ideas that you want to write down.
As a former commissioner of the African Union, Professor Chumbow came in different hats to serve and volunteer for the African Union. In 2021, he was given a certificate of recognition from that African Scientific Research Innovation Council, where he was given a meritorious certificate for the work he has done and the manner in which he helped us to start ASTRIC, because ASTRIC started in 2019, even though it was a decision of the head of states. But when it also came to Akalan, he was made the president of this African Council for African Languages.
Alors que j'étais directeur de la francophonie au ministère des Relations extérieures, le professeur Chumbow a participé comme linguiste à beaucoup de réunions scientifiques que la francophonie a organisées pour le développement des langues locales au Cameroun et aussi en Afrique. Et je sais que à cette occasion, nous avons aussi parlé de ces activités pour le développement des langues locales en Afrique dans les commissions organisées par l'Union africaine.
His contributions were very, very outstanding. Of course, you cannot buy age, you cannot buy experience. So he brought the wealth of his experience into all that we do, either as a member of the jury for the selection of the African Scientist of the Year, that is the Kwame Nkrumah Scientific Award, either as the Pan-African University, either as African Scientific Research Innovation Council, or the African Council for African Languages, or Akalan.
J'ai su à partir de là, j'ai eu à connaître un peu tout le travail scientifique du professeur, avec les centaines d'articles scientifiques qu'il a écrits et qui ont touché beaucoup de domaines sur le développement de la linguistique en Afrique, mais qui a aussi aidé beaucoup de jeunes linguistes dans leur formation, non seulement au Cameroun, en Afrique, mais même dans le monde.
Anything that concerns young people is of interest to Professor Chumbow. I have seen the big man come and sit in meetings with young people simply because he wants to inspire them. I think he is so much aware that the future of the country lies in the hands of the young people.
This is a father to me. The couple constitute parents to me, academic parents, because from the first day I went to the university, it was in their hands that I fell. And he has brought me up. From the first degree he supervised, he first of all taught me, and then he supervised my undergraduate long essay, and then he supervised my master's degree thesis, and then my PhD, and has mentored me. And today I am proud to say I'm a full professor of the university system, thanks to that gentleman you call Professor Chumbow.
When he came back from Nigeria, we were working together. He was supervising my PhD thesis, and then we worked together, we related together, we prayed together concerning the things that we were going through professionally, scientifically, and also personally. And so we supported one another in the work we did. And then particularly, he became very fundamental in the work of development of the national languages, because SIL, the institution I am working for, he came to collaborate with us. He also, as a professor, trained most of our staff.
Professor Chumbow is by far the most accomplished and distinguished Cameroonian linguist with an international reputation that spans across all the continents of the world. Because Professor Chumbow's engagement in the field of linguistics has actually covered almost all the domains of this field, ranging from descriptive linguistics to applied linguistics and to language planning. And with this, Professor Chumbow has contributed not only through his writings and teaching, but Professor Chumbow has actually mentored so many people all across the world as he taught in the USA, in Nigeria, in Cameroon, and as he visited and taught in many universities across the world, including the University of Cape Town in South Africa.
Talking about his leadership qualities, leadership starts within, within yourself. That is where the journey of leadership starts. And when I look at Professor Chumbow, I see a very selfless man who wakes up thinking about how he can help somebody else, how he can contribute to the nation, and his willingness to support our efforts as an organization.
Le témoignage est unanime sur l'exemple qu'il a donné que l'on peut être chrétien et être responsable dans de hauts postes de responsabilité dans la société. Non seulement pour occuper une place, mais pour impacter, pour changer, pour améliorer le quotidien des usagers de ces services-là.
Mama Chumbow was a very faithful Presbyterian practicing Christian because her uncle happened to be a pastor. And that explains why Professor Chumbow is such a fervent Presbyterian Christian, and because he came from roots that were very strong.
He's a born-again believer. He does not play with his faith. So he's such an example of faith. One of the pioneer patrons of the ministry, youth ministry I started, Cameroon Youths for Jesus.
He has committed his life to service. Service to the community, service to the nation, service to God. And that is the reason why he's so much at peace. An appointment doesn't move him. A presidential decree or what have you that says to him, okay, you need to rest, doesn't move him, because he approaches things from the position of a servant, not one who's entitled. Although, of course, he has the pedigree to place certain demands and expectations, but he carries himself with, I'm only a servant, and what I'm asked to do, I do it.
As a member of my family, I feel proud that we have been able to produce a personality who is playing a very important role, especially in the field of university education in this country. There's no question about that. And secondly, I feel proud because he has touched the hearts of many, 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 many students. When I go to parties with him, it becomes a problem to get out. When we want to move out, this one wants to talk to Professor Chumbow. This one wants to talk to Professor Chumbow. Oh, that was my professor. That was my mentor. This is this. It becomes difficult. So you see, and then this is not all. Above all, with all what he has attained, with all the fame he has attained, he's always on the move, moving from one country to another, especially as the current president of the Cameroon Academy of Sciences. He's moving from one country to another, one conference to another, and I think he's like an ambassador. If you put it that way, it's advertising our country, Cameroon. And above all, with all that, he's still very humble. And he's still available. He's still kind. He's still charitable. He does not wear an iron coat. And he doesn't, how will I put it, trade on other people who are low. And that's what makes me very proud of him.
Well, it so happens that he is the president of the Academy of Science of Cameroon, which is the highest scientific body, I think, of recognized scholars and researchers in the country.
He's a great linguist. In linguistics, he's the best I ever saw. And his steadfastness and his expertise as a leader, I really, really admire that in him. And moving people, you don't have leaders all the time. Leaders who are able to move people. You can have people around say they are leaders, but specifically when you have such expertise as being a leader, we thank God for that, and he has it.
Professor Chumbow is very well published in top journals, not these mushroom journals some people go and publish there. And I'm not talking about Cameroon professors or anything. I'm just talking about professors in general. There are people called professors who don't deserve that title. And it annoys some of us because we know what it takes to become a professor. Professor Chumbow is a true academician, very well published, very broadly published, but published in very top academic outlets.
As the first dean or head of the College of Social Sciences of the Academy, she helped very much to improve, particularly the evolution of the fellows of the Academy within that college. That's the identification and admission of qualified fellows. I must say that the Academy is a merit-based academy.
The Cameroon Academy of Sciences, like all academies of sciences worldwide, you've heard of the Royal Society of Great Britain, which is the Academic Society of Science of Great Britain. You've heard of the U.S. National Academy of Sciences, the Leopoldina, the German Academy of Sciences. All of them have one main responsibility, ensuring that science is used to ensure the improvement of the living conditions of citizens. Since science has to do with knowledge production, knowledge dissemination, knowledge appropriation. And since we live in an era that can be said to be the era of knowledge economy, meaning that the economy thrives on the foundation of knowledge, the production of new ideas, innovations that feed technology, and technology that improves living conditions. It is therefore important that national policies are informed by science, by knowledge. And so science academies have the responsibility of putting together the knowledge that's available and seeing to what extent that knowledge can inform decisions by decision makers within the various ministries, so that although academies of sciences are autonomous institutions of revered academics, specialist scientists in different domains that are independent, but they actually work with government and for government, because the principal role is to be think tank of issues that are important to the nation in the domain of science, and also to advise the nation and its governments with respect to knowledge that is needed for problem solving in different areas, so that together the nation can improve the citizens, the condition of the citizens. And that's why the Cameroon Academy of Sciences, in the last few years, since I have become its president, we opted to have for each year a Cameroon Academy of Science Week of Science in the service of national development.
We're all members of the Cameroon Academy of Sciences. You know how most countries have Academy of Sciences are the top, not people who have, it's the association that kind of works to look into what problems government has and tries to bring some kind of recommendations and solutions as academicians.
One objective which Professor Chumbow, as president of the Academy, is pursuing is to bring the Academy closer to the policy makers, that's the government, in order to make sure that the vision of the Academy is properly impacting policy and development.
When he took over as president of the Cameroon Academy of Science, I think he has revolutionized the academy, and that we've been working over these years to give the academy a name, which the file is well advanced, and the activities of the academy have come to limelight through his efforts. I think there's no other way that personally I can appreciate what Professor Chumbow has done to science and technology in this country through his activities in the Academy of Science.
His extensive contribution to linguistics across the world, I'm not talking about Africa, called BEBAN Chumbow, he is a standard. He's an icon, he's an authority. So you cannot even negotiate that. That is very, very important. And then out of that, he has done so many other things. Publication of books. When we were doing the fellowship for Professor Chumbow, people came across Europe, America, here in this Amphi 700. People came across and all of them had positive things to say about Professor SAMMY BEBAN Chumbow.
He is simplicity in personification. And I cannot be more grateful than I am now.
Despite his accomplishments, you will not believe it, I'm his son. But he respects my opinion. Sometimes he says something I don't, academically, I may not agree with, and I tell him, hey, but I think we should do it like this. When he was Vice Chancellor at ICT University, he would say, okay, Vic, yeah, no problem. I will look at, he looks at my perspective. He doesn't just say, oh, that's a little boy, who is he to. He is that humble.
I love the way he handles mentorship. I love the way he listens when you have a problem and you come to him, the way he listens. He's always ever positive.
Professor Chumbow is someone who is very, very hardworking, and he is someone who is also interested in giving value to people. When he works with students, he is a very simple man. His interest is to bring up somebody from whatever level he is in to a level where he can give his utmost for the nation, especially as far as language development is concerned.
It's good to celebrate somebody when he's alive. It's good to say the good things on somebody when he's alive, because you will say, and whenever you make a mistake, he will correct you, than when he's dead and you will say those things when he's not hearing. So this celebration of today is welcome, because we're able to talk to the hearing of Professor Chumbow.
Inspiring example of ethics, transparency, ethics, etc. So he's really a good person to mentor others. And if he mentors others, we'll be able to follow his footsteps.
I admire his humility. And it is that quality that led him through the challenges of managing higher education in this country. He was Deputy Vice Chancellor in Boya, later on was appointed Rector in Chang, Ngaoundere, and then back to Yaoundé 1. Through these state-owned universities, there were challenges, especially when it got to Yaoundé 1. There were uprising from time to time. But through his humility, through his fatherly approach to problems, that he was able to solve some of these problems that came up. I think I admire the way Professor Chumbow handled challenges that came his way. Even the setting up of the ICT University, I think it is the experience that he gained from these universities that enabled him to be able to bring together the resources, human resources that he needed to be able to set up the ICT which we now see it today as a full-blown university.
We mustn't forget one thing. His wife, barrister, you see, Muma Chumbow, has been a very, very driving force by his side. And it has she has worked very hard, and together they have accomplished a lot of things.
She had the best honeymoon experience because we went from here to Nigeria. From Nigeria, we went to Rome, from Rome to Paris, from Paris to, where did we go to? Denmark, Denmark to Sweden, Sweden to Britain, Britain to America. Just like that. And and I was doing a lot of things along the line. So that helped because usually when you are not coming back early, you are doing something, Madame may be wondering what you're doing, but she followed me in all of these places so that she could know exactly what I'm doing when I'm out. And it was very helpful. It has been very helpful in our marriage, in that there's a lot of understanding that by the grace of God, I have I'm called to a lot of responsibilities, and she knows that I respond to that call, and that has been quite helpful.